Yo, what's up? So, this is a video that I've been meaning to do for a long time now, ever since I started the channel back in January, I think it was. And that is my top football team of all time. So, my top 11 players of all time, one for each position. And it's something that is pretty fluid. So, as the years have gone past, I've changed it all the time. And these are only players that I've actually seen play. So I haven't included anyone from beyond me, from years that were previous to me watching football. So, namely, late 80s, 90s, 2000s, up until today. Those sort of players from watching Serie A back in the day and early Premier League football. So let's get started with my top 11. I've also got a bench as well, so I can mention those. And if you're new to the channel, this is a channel where I'll be talking about football. I also talk about lifestyle. I've got a series called Edge of the Matrix, and I'll be coming back fresh soon with some new videos. I'm just getting my laptop fixed, so yeah, keep it tuned to FaZe in Orbit. You can also sponsor me on Patreon at FaZe in Orbit, patreon.com/FaZe in Orbit. So I'll put the link below. Check this out. So here we go. In goal, first of all, it was a toss-up between a few of my favourite goalkeepers. I remember watching Oliver Kahn for Germany, a brilliant goalie. And obviously Buffon recently, who's a legendary goalkeeper. And Casillas, for example. But I've actually gone with Peter Schmeichel, Manchester United. Being a United fan, I always thought that the way he commanded the box was just fantastic. The way he would organise the defence. You know, some people say that it was scare tactics sometimes because he'd shout and you could hear it on TV when he would talk. But I just think Peter Schmeichel was brilliant and his distribution was great. So yeah, he's going to make it into my favourite team of all time. So number one shirt goes to the Great Dane, Peter Schmeichel. And Kasper isn't doing too badly at Leicester either, is he? Winning the winning the Premier League a few seasons ago. All right, now the defence, which is my favourite part, as I used to play in defence. Let's start with left back. Now, there's only one candidate for me in left back. Well, actually, no. To tell you the truth, Ashley Cole was a great left back. Roberto Carlos was a great left back. But growing up watching Italian Serie A football, there's one player that I would sometimes watch a football match just to see how he performed, and that was Paolo Maldini, the best fullback I've ever seen. Nothing would get past him. I remember being glued to the TV and just watching the left back position, seeing great players at the time trying to take him on, and every single time he'll just stop them. But not only that, he'd run up the pitch, he'd assist, and he would score goals. That was pretty much unheard of back then. If you think about comparing it to today's football, where the fullbacks are probably the most important part of a team. You have to do everything these days. If you look at Liverpool, Robertson, for example, he does everything. He's defending and he's assisting, but back then it was pretty much a 4-4-2 and your fullbacks would just stay as fullbacks defending. But Maldini just took it to a whole new level. He was a great defender and he was great going forward. Captain of Italy at 24 years old, Paolo Maldini takes my number 3 shirt at left back. Oh, I forgot to mention the formation is a 4-3-3. Okay, let's go to my left-sided centre-back. And there was a lot of debate about this. There's a lot of players that I thought of, like Matteo Sammer and Cannavaro as well, who I think was the only player in recent times to win Ballon d'Or as a defender, although Virgil van Dijk may do that soon, and hopefully he does. But I've gone with another Italian player, and there's 3 Italians actually in my defence. Another Italian player, and that is Nesta, Alessandro Nesta. And Nesta, who played for Lazio, as well as some other clubs in Italy, was so commanding. In the air, he was amazing. His positioning was fantastic. He didn't always have to go to ground, but when he did go to ground, he'd win the ball. And I just thought Nesta was so commanding for so many years, and he was pivotal in Italy winning the World Cup. He was a fantastic player to watch as well. So my left-sided centre-back goes to Alessandro Nesta. Now, my right-sided centre-back is probably a player who's the oldest player in the team, meaning that he was playing the longest when I was watching. And it might come as a surprise to some of you, but like I said, I used to really enjoy watching Serie A football back in the days, and it was probably the best league in the world before the Premier League blew up and took it over. And a player that I used to love watching was Franco Baresi of AC Milan. Actually, Nesta played for Milan as well, so there's 3 Milan players in my backline. Baresi had amazing pace. Even when he was older, he played till he was like, I think, 37, 38 years old. He had brilliant pace across 10 or 20 yards to win the ball. He was so commanding. He was a captain as well. Great on the ball, he could pass. These Italian defenders back then, they're the ones that started playing it out from the back. And I think that Baresi was so brilliant to watch. And he complemented Maldini and Costa Curta at the time as well, who was another great defender. But for me, Baresi is probably one of the best I've ever seen. So I'd put Baresi next to Nesta in the centre of defence. Now, right back. Let's change the nationality a bit. Right back, I remember Christian Panucci playing there in the same Milan team, the great Milan team. Salgado from Madrid gets a shout as well, good player. Gary Neville gets a shout as well from me. Not just being a United fan, but I thought he was a good player. And, you know, obviously Beckham made him better, but Neville was good. He was a very underrated footballer, I think. Let me know what you think about that, because I know there's a lot of haters about that belief. But also the player at Arsenal, part of the Invincibles, whose name, oh my God, I forgot his name. What was his name? Let me know, mate. You know that guy. He was a good player. But right back is a player that I first watched when he was young at Parma. And he went on to just be an unbelievable footballer. Can defend and he can attack. And that's Lilian Thuram, the World Cup winner with France. Started his career at Parma and then went on to Barcelona. Fantastic footballer. Like I said, he had everything in his locker. He's good in the air, he could slide tackle, and he could score. Remember he scored, was it him who scored 2 goals in the quarterfinal of the World Cup or European Cup? Yeah, so he went on to win everything basically. What a great footballer, Lilian Thuram, amazing player. That's my backline, Maldini, Nesta, Baresi and Thuram. Stepping into midfield. Now, here's a player that I absolutely love to watch, and a player who made a position his own, so much so that there's a position named after him, and that's Claude Makélélé. And I remember watching Makélélé in the La Liga team in Celta Vigo when he was younger, and he was just brilliant. And the thing is about him is that because he was a small, diminutive player, you know, he didn't have the pace, he didn't really win the headers, but what he had a few strengths that he did miles better than anyone, which was firstly his positional sense, so he would always get in the way of a ball, and secondly his passing as well, his short passing. Because if you look at videos of Makélélé, right, and I remember him playing, he'd win the ball and his next pass will be a fantastic pass, and he'd pass it forward a lot as well. But for such a small guy, his talent in his positional sense and using his body, he was unbelievable as an anchorman or a defensive midfielder. He was pivotal to the success of that Real Madrid team, the Galacticos team. And I just think Claude Makélélé deserves to be in my greatest team of all time. So my number 4 shirt goes to Claude Makélélé, who came to Chelsea later on in his career, if you remember, but is a great player. Okay, next to him, another Frenchman. And this one, in this position, number 8 position, there was many different candidates. There was Paul Scholes, Roy Keane, many different candidates. One of my favourite players of all time as well was Dimitri Albertini from the same AC Milan team. Many different players, but I've gone with another Frenchman, that's Patrick Vieira of Arsenal. I just think that Vieira had everything. And the more that time goes on, when you look back and you watch videos of him, you realise how commanding of a midfielder he was. I was watching an old Man United Arsenal game a few days ago, and he single-handedly ran that midfield that had Giggs, Beckham, Scholes, and Roy Keane in it, single-handed. He could do everything. I remember watching this bit where he's got the ball in the middle of the pitch and he's moving forward with it, and you got Scholes and Keane surrounded him, and Giggs coming in, and he just like pulls the ball back and just plays it back, and I'm like, the composure that he had. He could do everything. I loved watching Patrick Vieira. There's nothing like Vieira in today's game. Nothing at all. He was such a great footballer. So Vieira deserves to be in there. He's also a player that went on to win the World Cup. Deservedly so. Now, so Vieira gets my number 8 shirt, box to box player. My number 10 shirt, so remember there's a 3 in midfield. There's 2 and then 1 in front. So the 1 in front, my number 10 shirt, coveted number 10 shirt. There's many different players that I could have put here. I could have put Rui Costa in there. I could have put Riquelme, who was a brilliant player I used to love watching. Let's see, from the Premier League, Bergkamp maybe could have gone in there. Many different players have taken a number 10 shirt. But for me, my favourite player of all time is Zinedine Zidane, and I've put him and given him the number 10 shirt. So he plays in front of Makelele and Vieira. I don't have to talk too much about Zidane. I'm going to make a whole video about that. He's just, for me, he could see everything on a football pitch from anywhere. His awareness was insane. His passing was crazy. Yeah, it's just absolute joy to watch. What a player. The single greatest season from a footballer I've ever seen was his second season at Juventus. Go back and watch some of that. He just took the whole... He would literally dictate the entire game on his own. Went on to win the World Cup. Had an infamous incident at the end of one of the World Cup finals. But Zinedine Zidane, for me, what a great goal at Hampden to win the Champions League. He just had everything. Fantastic footballer, proper Galactico. And he deserves... I guess he's on the list of many people's best players of all time, like top 3 or 4 perhaps, but he's my favourite player of all time, and Zinedine Zidane gets the coveted number 10 shirt. So who's he going to feed in attack? Here's my 3 up front. So I'm playing 2 wingers and a centre forward. Let's start on the right forward, and there was a lot of different candidates for both wings actually. Pavel Nedved, one of my favourite players of all time, 2-footed player. Luis Figo, I remember watching Barcelona. One of the first players that I used to watch, because he was right-footed coming in from the left wing. He would almost always score. I remember 97, 98 season, tons of assists, tons of goals. Luis Figo was a great footballer. Ryan Giggs as well, obviously, as a United fan. I loved Ryan Giggs, absolute legend. But I have to give it to Lionel Messi. I think that no matter what people say and about him doing it in big games, winning the World Cup or this and that, I think on talent alone, Lionel Messi is an amazing footballer. There's no doubt about it. And I've put him into my team. I don't have to talk too much about Messi, but he goes into the right, and he will get the number 11 shirt. Let's give Messi the number 11 shirt. On the left side of midfield, or left side of attack, I've put the current best player in the world. His stats alone are completely insane, and he's just gone straight up into one of the best players of all time, if not the greatest player of all time, and that's Ronaldo of Portugal. As a United fan watching Ronaldo, I saw the best debut I've ever seen from a footballer when he was 18 years old, and he went on to do it. And with Ronaldo, it was all about hard work, whereas Messi, it came natural to him when he was a kid. Ronaldo was all about hard work. All the United players would say that he'd stay behind in training, putting more work in than anyone, and he's just gone on to become an absolutely phenomenal footballer. Even now, he's like 34, 35 years old. He's probably the best player in Serie A and Juventus. So it's been a joy to watch Ronaldo playing football. 2-footed, he can jump, his heading is brilliant. He pushed Portugal to win the European Cup. So I think Ronaldo goes in there in my left, and he takes his number 7 shirt. Right, the famous number 9. Who's going to take my number 9? So many great players that I've seen. Shout out to Eric Cantona as well, legend, who doesn't make it this time. Thierry Henry, great player. The Premier League hasn't been the same without Thierry Henry. There's nothing else out there like him. Some great players, again from back in the day, that I remember in Italy as well, had some great players. Zlatan as well, shout out to Zlatan, great footballer. Some may say Aguero as well, the guy's a machine, right? Alan Shearer's a fantastic player. I think he doesn't get as much love because I think he's English, but I think Alan Shearer was a fantastic footballer to watch. Same with Ian Wright, great striker. But my number 9 has to go to Brazilian Ronaldo. And I just think Ronaldo was a phenomenal footballer. I remember watching him when he was younger. People talk about Mbappe and what Mbappe does. But Ronaldo was just an absolute machine. He would terrorise defenders on his own. What I loved about him was, if you watch, and that was 4-4-2 again back in the days, right? So you had a link player with you. But if you watch Ronaldo, when he gets the ball, he doesn't care. He would turn and say, I can take on his whole defence and I would score, and he would do it. He didn't need anyone. The sign of a truly great footballer. And he went on to Inter, played fantastically well. Shame about his injuries and stuff. They went to Real and just did it again, playing with the Galacticos team. Winning the World Cup in 2002. What a brilliant game, brilliant performance. 3-time World Player of the Year. Ronaldo, yeah, he definitely tops a lot of people's player of all time list, and deservedly so. So my number 9 is Ronaldo. So yeah, on the bench, where's that piece of paper? I had it there. Here. On the bench, I've got a goalie. I put Buffon in goal, so I think he's a legend, great player. I put Jaap Stam in as a defender. He was a great footballer, especially in the air. Should have stayed at United, but he fell out with Fergie. Once you do that, you're done. Dennis Bergkamp, I've put on the bench. One of the best players the Premier League has ever seen. Most technically gifted footballer, I think. I put Romario, the legendary Brazilian striker. What a fantastic footballer. Pavel Nedved, like I said, 2-footed coming in off the wing. Great player. And I put Clarence Seedorf, who could do everything in midfield. Shout out to Steven Gerrard as well. So guys, what do you think of my favourite football team of all time? Of players that I've players that I've watched play. Let me know what your favourite team of all time is, and put it below in the comments. Remember to subscribe to FaZe in Orbit, where we talk about football, I talk about lifestyle. I'm going to start some vlogging soon as well. So yeah guys, hit that like button and stay tuned. Thanks for watching.